Art and Trauma Recovery. This is a really exciting night for us. We've been looking forward to this for several months, so thank you all for joining us tonight. Before we get started, I want to do some housekeeping. All attendees are muted, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will look at those throughout the presentation and save some time at the end for Q&A. You are able to turn on closed captions. There should be an arrow at the bottom of your screen that says closed caption, and you will be able to see subtitles. As you know, or as hopefully you can tell, there is an ASL interpreters. If you have any tech issues, please use the chat and we will work on getting you some support. So just to, I want to take a second to introduce myself and thank all of the organizations that have helped to make this event possible. My name is Tara Ahern. I'm the project director for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance and also one of the co-chairs for Illinois Imagine Chicago. This project, this event really is put in part by an award that I received this year through the American Association of People with Disabilities. And the purpose of my project is to engage people with disabilities, rape crisis centers, and service providers in doing collaborative regional and statewide work with the hopes of improving services, policies, and opportunities for people with disabilities who have experienced sexual violence. We want to thank Resilience Rape Crisis Center in Chicago for all of their support and help in putting on all of these wonderful events, and want to send a special shout out to those on my team who have made this possible, Christine Beck and Jay-Jin Pak. So, okay, let's go through some of the objectives for tonight. We are going to talk about the intersection of disability and sexual violence and just look at some statistics that illustrate that. Also talk about the impact of sexual violence on survivors, discuss healing through art, learn about Awakenings Gallery, and celebrate artists and see their work. Okay, so just to get us thinking about this issue, people with disabilities experience sexual violence more than 3 times that of people without disabilities. And when we talk specifically about people with intellectual or developmental disabilities, those rates are 7 times higher than people without disabilities. So we know that this is an issue that's, you know, really important for all individuals, obviously, but for people with disabilities, they can be more at risk, right? And so that is one of the things that we want to really talk through today. And then, you know, just to think about the effects of sexual violence on people with disabilities, it's no different than people without, right? So people experience all the same things that you'll see on the screen, from fear and confusion, guilt, shame, humiliation, feeling isolated, and self-blame. So as we move through to the next section, objective, we're going to talk through, you know, healing and art. And, you know, we have spent several trainings through this series discussing sexual violence and all the ways in which we can support ourselves and you know, other people that maybe we serve. So I will encourage you to look on the Alliance's website where we have recordings of each of those presentations. If you're interested, you want to check those out, feel free to email me. My email address will be at the end of the presentation. So now let's talk about healing and art. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarj, who's going to discuss more. Sarj?
Hi, good evening, everybody, wherever you're at. My name is Sarj. I am a Mexican, light-skinned person wearing a green sweater with neck length black hair, and my background is gray and beige. And I am an intern working with Access Living through the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm an art therapy graduate candidate. And so I'm interning with the Disability Culture Activism Lab. And I'm so honored to have been invited to talk about art. and trauma. So I wanted to talk about creative healing science because we know that art is proven to help heal. Although we can get in a whole discussion about what healing means, right? Because trauma is not something that you, well, in my, it, trauma is ongoing, right? It's an experience and it's a process. But we have seen scientifically that art helps people cope with their trauma. So over 30 years of scientific investigation has demonstrated that I'm reading from the slide, just so y'all know. I'll try to give it more of a beat with my voice so that it's engaging. Over 30 years of scientific investigation have demonstrated that creative expression can alter not just moods, attitudes, and emotions, but influences neuroendocrine pathways that control physiologic outcomes as varied blood pressure, sleep, and the immune response. We are learning how creative expression can reduce blood pressure while boosting the immune system and reducing stress, promote relaxation and a sense of well-being, reduce anxiety, depression, and pain, and promote general quality of life. If you have ever made art in your whole life, you may have experienced a sense of calm, or maybe not, but the engagement of you sitting down or lying down or standing up, whatever you're doing, with an art material in your hand or in front of you, like, you're asked to take a moment to be present, and that's one of the ways that trauma can actually start to be processed, right, by being present in the body. The next thing I wanted to say was that compared to other treatments and interventions, creative engagement is relatively inexpensive. I mean, we can buy crayons at the dollar store, right? That's my favorite medium. And art making can be widely accessible through online resources and interactive solutions, as well as in-person community-based settings. And I can talk more about other groups that I know that are doing the same thing, but throughout this session, we'll go on to talk about those too. Can you go to the next slide, please? And I mentioned it earlier, but art can provide a means of expressions to cope with trauma. Every person is different and every person's experience is different, right? But everyone can use art to deal with trauma, whatever the nature of its timeline. So these are some ways that some of the things I wrote down just based on like what I have learned so far about trauma and art in my art therapy program. And creating artwork to process trauma can provide different venues, right? It can be a cathartic process, like the sitting down and actually picking a color and like maybe giving a meaning to every color, every line, every shape, and just, I would, scribble it really hard or really softly, or like just the actual making it being like, I let it, almost letting it go, or just making it visible, right? Like that cathartic process. Then creating new meanings for triggers and stories. I personally am working on my thesis, and I'm working through my disability journey and my dealing with my own personal trauma. And so through my artwork, which is the data I'm using for my thesis, is I'm creating new meanings for the triggers I've had, for the stories that I've been saying for a long time, but now I'm writing and making them into artwork, right? So that's one way. Another way is by developing an artist's identity. I will argue that each and every one of you has an artist's identity. You may not all identify as an artist, but you all have an identity as an artist because you are all makers. You all make stuff. And so even for friends that I have had conversations about trauma with, we begin to see a change in confidence and self-esteem once we have been making art, right? Once we develop the skills to make something look the way that we want it to look, right? Or to make someone feel something when they see something we make. And those are skills, right? And they help with self-esteem and confidence. And then another thing is, excuse me. Another thing is giving or creating the chance for an artist to be a self-advocate. I have been very lucky and been able to access all sorts of artist stories, whether that's like, in the form of a painting or poems, or been in, support groups. And I cannot tell you how big the possibilities of expressing yourself and advocating for yourself can be. Like, there can be, like, the loudest person in the room can be that one person who wrote a poem, or like well, yes, that's what I mean is, like, we can, through art, we can make our voices be heard, and that's really important. And these are just some of the ways that I wrote down in how our work can help process trauma. Can you go to the next slide? And then, so this is a list of just some art, like, really, I just wrote them down, that some art forms that we commonly see. So like drawing, painting, sculpture, ceramics, music, performance, movement, and really any practice that you consider art. And I really want to emphasize this. Storytelling is an art form. Sewing is an art form. Like, I'm trying to think of, I should have come up with better examples, but literally anything that someone makes that can either like cause an effect on a person or can be documented, I believe is artwork. The fancy school professors at the school I go to may have different ideas, but as an artist and as someone who knows a lot of other artists, I think art can be whatever you want it to be. So please don't ever, if you're sitting here and you're like, man, I think maybe I want to make some artwork, don't be discouraged by people who get like MFAs, because they still do the same thing that, kindergartners do. They play, and that's what art is a lot about, right? Just letting go of like the need to be to make something perfect. Okay, I'm rambling a little bit now. I just get really excited. Okay, can we go to the next slide? And so that's probably why I got excited, because I wanted to talk about art therapy. I am, God willing, come May, I will be an art therapist. And I just want to advocate for art therapy and say that art therapy is a form of psychotherapy that uses art media as its primary mode of expression and communication. Within this context, art is not used as a diagnostic tool, but as a medium to address emotional issues which may be confusing and distressing. Art therapists can work with children, young people, adults, and the elderly. Clients may have a wide range of difficulties, disabilities, or diagnoses. These include emotional, behavioral, or mental health problems, learning or physical disabilities, life-limiting conditions, neurological conditions, and physical illnesses. I don't love this definition, but it's the one I most agree with, but I have problems with them. We can have a whole conversation about it if you want. But we do have, I do just want to be cognizant of the time. Also, I know for sure, Resilience has access to art therapy, I think. So there's definitely folks in this room who know about how to reach other art therapists. So I just want to say that. And then the next slide, if you could, it's a lovely graphic. It wasn't mine, but it's someone shared it, and it's an image with a lilac background. At the top, it says types of self-care, and there's 8 how do I say, there's 8 bubbles with an image inside, and then underneath each bubble there's like a square and lists that correspond to the images. So the first, on the left hand side at the top, the first bubble looks like a running shoe, and these are like types of self-care, right? So a physical type can be sleep, stretching, walking, physical release, healthy food, yoga, and rest. For emotional types, it is a cloud and looks a little rainy. The types are stress management, emotional maturity, forgiveness, compassion, and kindness. For social, it looks like two typing messaging icons, social boundaries, support systems, positive social media, communication, time together, and asking for help. Spiritual, it looks like a little rainbow, the image. Time alone, meditation, yoga, connection, nature, journaling, and sacred spaces. On the bottom half of the page, the 5th bubble is a cup of tea. And it says personal, hobbies, knowing yourself, personal identity, honoring your true self. The next bubble is an image of the world. It says space, safety, healthy living environment, security, and stability, organized space. The next bubble is a wallet with some money in it, and it's financial. It says saving, budgeting, money management, splurging, and paying bills. And then the last one, work, is an image of a laptop. It says time management, work boundaries, positive workplace, more learning, break time. And at the bottom, it says visit blessingmanifesting.com for more. I think that's the credit of the image. But now that I've gone through all of those topics, I just wanted to call out that those are a lot of things that we can do to take care of ourselves. And I am 100% sure that we can all come up with one way to tackle one of those things with art activities. So I'm really glad it's on there, and I can probably find it and drop it in the chat if that's something any of you would want me to do. But that is all I had to share. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you. That was great. We appreciate you. Okay, I just want to take a moment I actually did not do my audio-visual description, so I want to do that and encourage everyone else. Thank you, Sarge, for for doing that. So I am a white female with blonde hair, and I'm wearing a pink turtleneck. I have glasses on and pink lipstick and some dangly, sparkly earrings to mix it up today. So okay, we're going to turn it over now to Laura Kinter, who's going to talk about the work she does at Awakenings.
Hi, Tara. Thank you so much for introducing me. I am Laura Kinter. I am a blonde white woman with a black turtleneck, and I am sitting in a pretty nondescript room with a plant behind me. And I'm so excited to be part of this event, and I'm so excited and intimidated to follow Sarge. I feel like rather than talk about our mission at Awakenings, we could just put Sarge in front of the camera and they would do a better job than me. So I really appreciate it. And I'm also really amazed to see some familiar names on this event. That makes me feel really close to everyone, and like this community is a close one in Chicago. And also I'm more excited to see some new faces because that means the community is growing. So a little bit about Awakenings. I'm going to be mostly reading from the slide and then I'll add my own spice to it. But Awakenings is an arts organization dedicated to making visible the artistic expression of survivors of sexual violence. We currently help survivors heal through art by providing year-round programming at our gallery space in the Ravenswood neighborhood of Chicago, although everything is virtual right now because of COVID. Through showcasing survivor art, our programming provides a safe space and supportive community for survivors who wish to share their stories, and also educates the public about the reality of sexual assault through rotating art exhibits, a digital literary magazine, concerts, and other performances. And I really, before we move on to the next slide, I really want to touch on something that Sarge also brought up, which is really crucial to our mission and the work that we do, because art making can be very intimidating to anyone who has never tried a creative practice before, even though everyone has definitely tried creative practices in their own home. I think domestic work is a creative practice, but it's really, really crucial that we don't really label ourselves as just an arts organization or just an art gallery, because if we have workshops or if we have events and we describe them as art making events, that can be a significant barrier for someone who really does have a creative energy, but maybe they haven't gone to art school or they've never picked up a paintbrush before. So we really try to make our programming as inclusive and accessible to everyone, and really reinforce the idea through the art that we show that anyone can be an artist and everyone is an artist. So we have committees that review our artwork submissions for our exhibits, and we really enforce a set of values that has nothing to do with artistic merit or skill or experience or craftsmanship or anything like that. The thing that we really look for is a person's story and their healing process. So I really appreciate Sarge bringing that up, because I would have not specified that before. If we could go to the next slide now. Okay, so we consider art, again, this is repeating so much, but as a tool for long-term healing, because healing is definitely never over. It is a lifelong project and it can look different on any day. And while everyone may not be able to afford clinical care, artistic expression is something that anyone can do with materials found around the house. It's extremely affordable, it's extremely accessible. It's just a matter of deciding to actually take that step for yourself. It can be really good for deactivation. So if someone is feeling activated or triggered, art practice can really sort of center one in their body. For exploring emotions, for breaking a single story. This is something that Awakenings is actually doing an art exhibit on in January of 2021, where we are inviting artists, survivor artists that we have worked with in the past, to return to our space and tell a new story, to sort of break down the idea that survivors are all experiencing the same kind of trauma. Art is a good tool for reflection, for education, for self-care, of course, and for nonverbal processing. I wanted to mention that specifically because commonly in survivors of sexual assault, talking about the event can be really difficult and can manifest in a lot of different ways, and art can be a perfect tool for someone who may not be able to verbalize what happened to them or verbalize their emotions, but they'll be able to express it in a different way. Externalizing thoughts, experiences, memories, or feelings can help one process them or educate others. Go to the next slide. So we actually have a list of self-care activities, which I'm really excited to talk to everyone about, because I think self-care is one of those things that is talked about all the time, but without much specificity. And sometimes that can feel a little strange and nobody knows where to start. I know I used to be like that. So we actually, in the beginning of COVID, decided to sort of shift our email newsletters to be called care packages, because we felt like instead of just promoting events and telling people what was going on with our organization, we felt like our community really needed a different kind of support and a different kind of just communication from us. And so we pivoted to delivering these care packages to our audience, which usually include one self-care activity and a piece of art, whether it be writing, a painting, a video of a performance, to just sort of be sending that love and compassion out to everyone. And the self-care activities that we have come up with for this newsletter series have been some of my favorite, have been extremely illuminating for me. I sit there and I do them every Monday morning because that's when the care packages come out. So here's just a simple list of a few of them, and I encourage you at the bottom of this slide, and maybe Elise, actually, if you're on, if you could put this in the chat, there is a link to our previous care package prompts. So all of these, and they're much prettier than just a bulleted list, but they are available for free on our website, and you can also sign up. But creating a care box is a wonderful activity that you can do out of absolutely anything in your home. When we created care boxes last year, you can actually create a positive box and a negative box. So you can make a little box, you can decorate it however you want, and write down on tiny slips of paper things that bring you happiness, so that you have something to turn to if you're feeling really bad, or the opposite. Another one on the list is visualizing your demon, which is a drawing meditation. Another one is navigating unstable time, which is a journaling prompt. So for that one, you just need pen and paper. Coping mechanism bingo, which is an activity, writing yourself a love letter, which is a journaling prompt, one of my personal favorites, mind mapping, drawing, meditation, and visualization activity, which we actually have on the next slide in just a second, and another one that says creative expression, which I'm not sure what that one's about, but these can all be found on our website. And in addition, one thing that Awakenings has done since all of our programming has gone virtual is put our breathe room, which is something we have in the gallery, online. So when we invite anyone into our space, it's a physical space with art hanging on the walls made by survivors of sexual assault on the topic of healing from sexual violence. So we understand that there is a lot of potential for someone to be activated in the space. So if that were to happen, we actually have a separate room. It kind of looks like a therapy space. It has no art on the walls. It has, some plants, some little Christmas lights, a comfy chair. I think we have some pillows and some tissues in there just to sort of deactivate. And we really were struggling to come up with a way to provide that kind of safe space in a virtual event. And so we actually just made a web page, and it actually has some of these very self-care activities that are specific to the content of whatever exhibit is on the walls. So I really encourage you all to take a look at that, because I'm really proud of us for putting that together, and I think it looks great. And last but not least, I'm going to take us through a little mind mapping exercise on the next slide. Perfect. And I'm just going to read through this. Obviously, this is meant to be done kind of in solitude with a lot of time to reflect, but I'm just going to read through it so that everyone feels prepared. Again, this exists in the slides for you to take or on our website. Mind mapping organizes your thoughts when you're feeling anxious, stressed, or out of control. This exercise takes a big idea, anxiety, or stressor and breaks it down into more identifiable and manageable parts. All you need is a pen and paper. And there's a small graphic right next to the text, which is an image of a person with a reddish shirt and brown hair. And coming from her head are 7 different clouds. So number 1 says, start by drawing a circle at the center of your page. This is your macro focus, your big stressor. The second step is making your map. Using lines, arrows, different shapes, or colors, connect your thoughts to one another and organize them into patterns. Ask yourself things like, what elements of your map are within your control and what isn't? For the things that you can control, what can you do to change how they make you feel? And what sections of the map do you need to let go of? So this is just one small exercise, super, super simple, that I think is really powerful. And I think it just speaks to Awakening's dedication to really encouraging everyone to try self-care, everyone to try creative self-care practices, because like Sarge was saying, it really does help. It really does allow us to release something and to work through something in a way that I think a lot of us would never really consider doing, or maybe have never been told to do. And we really want to encourage everyone to try it, because it can really have an enormous impact, especially during such a difficult year. And because it is so accessible and it is so easy, there's really nothing to lose. So thank you so much. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Laura. We really appreciate you. Those are some great resources that you provided. I love that exercise. I think that's something that we can all do, and hopefully, people can, if you have done something like this before and you want to share about it in the chat, or if you have other ideas for how you've used art or how other people could use art, please feel free to share with us. So now we're going to move on to celebrate our featured artists. So again, we want to do, the purpose of this is to really just share and uplift and amplify people in the survivor community who have done art and want to and feel free and comfortable to share that experience with you, and hopefully something will inspire you in your own journey. So let's go. Okay, Genevieve, my girl, are you here?
Hi everyone, my name is Genevieve. I have black curly hair. I have my art studio behind me with my paintings. I'm a Mexican woman, and I'm going to share about my art. My art has shaped my experiences being a disabled woman of color. So I transferred to the school in 2019 for a studio art major, and I faced discrimination due to my disability. And I fought with the laws, and at the same time, I just got out of a abusive relationship that was physical and verbal. And one of my first assignments in the woman gender studies course was intimate partner abuse. And when I was studying that, I found so much healing from that, and I knew that would be my major and help me understand my experiences and inform my art practice. So the painting in the middle with the eye is called "Look What You've Done to Me." A painting reflecting my physical and emotional bruising of being in an abusive relationship. Love and abuse, and I know many survivors experience this, feel the same or similar. And when I was making this piece, I was thinking about "Look What You've Done to Me," because I just felt like it's so small and so outside of myself. And the painting on the freedom painting is and the Federal versus accessibility. It's called Voices and Bodies. And I have a speech impairment due to a brain injury following a car accident. And that's when I became an artist. I became painting through art therapy, and I found my new voice and my expression through arts. And I found it to serve as a way to express what I've gone through, being my car accident, living as a woman with a disability, ableism, sexism, racism, moving through the world and the society. And then when I endured physical and verbal abuse from my ex-partner, I really found my art to serve me. And then it also empowered me and gave me the confidence and strength to heal through colors and brushstrokes and feminine images of the woman I want to become. And they're painting all the way on the right is femicide, connected a project about femicide in Mexico. And the hit close to home is my mother's from Mexico, and I've heard of family members dealing with domestic violence. And they may be curious to explore what happens here, and then what happens to women with disabilities. They are more vulnerable, more financially dependent. And us women in my situation, I was stuck because I earned SSI and I didn't even have the money to live, and also so many emotional factors. But I'm really grateful that I can use art to tell my story and be a voice for the voiceless. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Genevieve. That was wonderful. Okay, so we're going to go on to Caitlin Weed. And just as a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Okay, Caitlin, take it away.
Oh, okay. I can't start my video. Give me one. Oh, give me one. Okay. There we go. I think. Yes. Okay, perfect. My name is Caitlin Weed. I go by they, them pronouns. I'm a white person with pink glasses and a pink dress in a dimly lit room. The piece that I have displayed is a Springer Spaniel sitting on a toilet, holding a phone and an inhaler. The colors are blue, purple, and have orange accents, snowfalls. I'm an illustrator, a comic artist, and a writer, sort of a jack of all trades. I'm finishing my BFAW at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I'm the first student from North Dakota to attend and now graduate in just a few weeks. I focus primarily on narrative and graphic medicine. Narrative medicine is the use of narrative in order to heal, as well as a genre of art and literature. I'm interested in how disabled people can take back their narrative when it's so often been used as nothing more than a plot device or trope in main media. Graphic medicine is the use of comics by healthcare workers and patients to tell their stories. My goal is to promote the voices of more disabled graphic medicine artists, as we are so often the most people impacted by the healthcare system. As of right now, I'm currently an illustrator at the American Medical Association in pursuit of this. Growing up in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota made my experience unique. Access to healthcare was limited and at times biased. I had to drive 90 miles in order to access a neurologist who then told me I was making up my migraines. I'm currently diagnosed with chronic migraines with an intractable aura. Mental health resources were also extremely limited, as we only had one therapist in town. My town had also created a culture of grooming and a culture of binge drinking. The USA Today in 2018 declared North Dakota the drunkest state, with more than 25% of people admitting they drank excessively. Every night, you had to watch empty highways for zigzagging vehicles. I was vulnerable. I was isolated due to my extended absences from school because of my migraines. I had ongoing, untreated mental health issues. I struggled and still struggle to comprehend social cues. At that time as well, there was extreme homophobia in the town, as well as myself, and I was lusting to be close to heteronormativity and to escape the internal and external slurs. What I did not realize was the encounter itself had created both a mental and physical barrier for me to tackle. I was diagnosed with vagimusis from the counter, and I was one of the most extreme cases my gynecologist had seen, and I had to go to physical therapy. No one talks to you about your pelvic floor, about how much you depend on it, from holding your organs to your ability to go to the bathroom. No one also discusses the range of conditions that can affect your pelvic floor, from postpartum to menopause. I wrote a first-person account of my experience in therapy for F News magazine. I also reported on how the sexual assault course the school created fell short. I found my voice. My first poetry chapbook, Spellbook of a Spectre, was made on a typewriter with handmade illustrations. I also tea-dyed every single page. I charted a course of the event, as well as my physical therapy, to my eventual IUD, which helped with my menorrhagia. My gynecologist and other healthcare providers had believed I was such a severe case that it just would never happen. This story was so essential to me because when it happened, I told no one. I continued on as if it had never happened. By creating this, I reclaimed my story, I acknowledged it, and I was able to tell it through my voice. Moving forward, I found my voice going where it needed to. I began to make poems, a memoir, and eventually a graphic memoir about my grandmother, Honey, who was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. In this story, I explore our relationship as well as how our disabilities interact, as she has a neurodegenerative disease and I am a neurodiverse person. I also explore our family history, the generations of trauma, and the silence that it has instilled. In an interview with my father for the project, he opened up about the abuse and substance use disorder in the family that had been kept quiet for decades. During this project, I found, like I imagine many, it nearly impossible to draw and depict the people around me. I became obsessive on how people looked and lost in the details and unable to tell their story. I developed a persona, like the picture that you see, and I turned everyone into animals. I found that I could make jokes, I could be more truthful, and I actually enjoyed what I was making without feeling the pressure to depict everyone down to the finest detail. A persona gave me the distance I needed, especially during the pandemic. The story changed as well in light of COVID-19, as my grandmother lives in a nursing home. I didn't think I'd ever see North Dakota in the news, especially not being talked about in the BBC or New York Times, covering how much COVID-19 has affected the state. It has taught me nothing new, that that North Dakota still does not care for its disabled population, especially its older population, and even more so its indigenous population. I hope that in writing this, I can provide a unique view as someone who has lived there and as someone who is young and high risk. Last but not least, I want to emphasize how important narrative is. It is so important to express yourself. It's important to create what you want, whatever that is, from notebook doodles to queer supernatural romance, which, God, so much times it's not. The market is saturated by cis-het, able-bodied writers and authors and artists who have defined toxic masculinity, racism, and disability tropes in film, literature, and art. My goals are to continue to enter the field as an editor and an illustrator to create a space for disabled stories by disabled creators. I also wanted to open up my email, which is kweed@sac.edu, and my website is caitlinweedart.com.
Wow, thank you so much, Caitlin. That was amazing. If you would be able to put your website and your email in the chat, that would be awesome. Thank you. Okay, Rachel DL, take it away.
Hi everyone. My name is Rachel. I am a disabled writer, artist, child sexual abuse survivor, and a disability activist with Disability Pride Madison in Madison, Wisconsin. I am a white female with brown hair, and I am wearing a gray scarf. I am sitting in front of a brown door, and on the screen there is an image of a girl who's me. So she has brown hair, then she's wearing a bluish headband, and then she's wearing a heart monitor. And above her, there is a banner that reads "Inside Trauma and High Fall Risk." And then to her right side, there is the word speak, and then a bird flying above a small girl. So tonight I'm going to read a poem, but before I read that poem, I'd just like to share a little bit about my own story and then discuss some of the influences behind my work. As a child, I suffered sexual abuse at the hands of my father and at the hands of a staff member in a psychiatric institution. These experiences with sexual violence always felt unique, isolated, and separated from the stories I was hearing in the media or in public conversations about sexual abuse. I grew up in a violent and unsafe household in the suburbs of Chicago. Throughout my early teenage years, I was sent to multiple psychiatric institutions as a result of mental and physical health challenges that developed as a result of trauma. Being sent to these institutions, however, became part of the cycle of abuse that functioned to label me and my responses to trauma as the problem. The abuse I experienced in these institutions, as well as home, solidified my understanding that there were no safe and trustworthy adults, and that systems that proposed to help could merely use diagnosis and pathologization to turn blame away from perpetrators and onto me. In 2017, I ran away from home and fled to a youth shelter in the Chicago suburbs. I was extremely privileged to still be able to eventually enroll in college, and I moved to Madison, Wisconsin to attend UW-Madison. My second semester on campus, I took a course on disability studies, which dramatically changed my life. Taking this course, I realized for the first time that sexual violence and abuse against people with disabilities, especially children in institutions, was not uncommon. In 2018, I began to follow news stories about the sexual abuse of institutionalized children in Chicago Lakeshore Hospital, and I realized similarities to my own narrative. This was really empowering. As a result, much of my artistic work now centers around the institutionalized violence and experiences of disabled children in psychiatric institutions, as these stories are rarely talked about, even in discussions about sexual violence against people with disabilities. My work also centers on youth homelessness and the experiences of young people who have had to flee from their home due to sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. Tonight, I decided I would read from one of my earlier poetry pieces that I wrote a few years ago, and it discusses my experiences as a runaway youth. In this poem, I hope to illuminate the interconnectedness of the stories of the many young survivors of sexual violence. I drew on my own experiences, news stories, and the National Runaway Safe Line forums to write this poem. I also just wanted to give a content notification that it discusses sexual abuse, homelessness, and strong language. There's strong language, so if anyone needs to mute or is unable to listen, then feel free to mute. So the poem is titled, "Who Are We?" for the Harbor Girls. This childhood of trauma has named me untouchable. Crimson curtain, shattered window. I am street trash, little shit, worthless bitch, psychotic freak, at least 3 major nosebleeds. The name calling, the arguing, the hitting, the hair pulling, the you should do the world a favor and just kill yourselves. This childhood has named me my anger. 1 year later, I'm staring down at an intake paper, wondering what box to check. It's 1 a.m. in the morning in the youth shelter, and my caseworker sits beside me in a white chair, asking me to define my new name. She asks, am I homeless, runaway, street involved, victim of domestic violence? I was 10 the first time my dad hurt me enough to crowd count bruises. But see, he had an excuse. We were playing running bases against my brother, and I, the winner, broke the rules. So he began throwing baseballs, cowhide red stitches that bled into the skin. Running away, I hid from him behind the tool shed, chicken-legged my knees into a pit of sand we used to dump vats of oil in for fried turkey on Thanksgiving. I know I'm telling this story now right from the middle. I know I'm telling this story in summary, because summary relies on logic, on explanation, cause and effect, consequences for broken rules. Before the house became a ruler of measures I could not live up to, before I grew into a woman, my name, the more I grew into a woman, the more the house coughed and shivered with fear I'd grow into the opposite of what it wanted me to be. Stupid instead of smart, fat instead of skinny, stubborn instead of willing. The pain scale you see on doctors' walls slid into my lungs a new ruler that dictated my behavior. I learned quickly that grass was better than concrete, the crack of a belt better than accusation, that if I stepped on the cracks, I would break my mom's back. Slapped, grounded, beaten, halved, attacked, my old name. Rachel, Danielle, Laura, Grace, Ariana, Sage, slipped beneath zero on this sliding scale of family renaming. I became war, delinquent, slut, fatty, anorexic, crazy shit. I was 8, I was 9, 10, 13 on a family vacation. My dad took me into the bathroom for 7 hours. He locked the door, turned on the shower. His hands dug deeper than baseball stitches. His touch rooted out a cavern between my legs to be filled with maggots, an empty mailbox, a message that said, simply by the way he ignored my nonstop crying, by the way I said, no, daddy, no, please, let me out of here, please. You are sewer slime, little shit, worthless bitch. You are the animal to be fucked because I fucked up marrying your mother, fucked up having children when I was never willing to be a father. This is how I've learned how to call back to myself after all these years. This is the song of self-love I sing at 1 a.m. in the morning when the only comfort I know to give myself is the backside of a hand. What you don't understand is that a girl can't believe she's beautiful if her home transforms her existence to weeds. She can't believe her body is sacred if her family participates in its invasion. She can't believe she's innocent if the country criminalizes her escape from further violence. In the United States, running away is a status offense, and young girls are jailed when our survival invades public places. The female correctional population, made up of 86% victims of sexual violence, is the fastest growing correctional population in the country. From young girls to women, sexual abuse to prison. Names like Centoya Brown, Brescia Meadows, and the re-victimization, the turning of labels from family mistake to delinquent, criminal, names this body a number less than 0. So, you ask me now why I don't have a place to call home. And I say, I turned to the streets at 18 because the sky unshackled the intimacy of lost autonomy, because the streets could turn into a mouth and swallow me, because I could lose the history of all names in the immediacy of an empty stomach. When I left home for good last summer, a note on the shelter wall asked us girls to see our worth. And I try to believe it, still, I try, but the mirrors reflect bruised fruit, banana peels under my feet, rotted eggs in place of teeth. The mirrors reflect shelter floors littered with broken earrings, crushed makeup, sheets browned by bed bugs, a toilet that leaks with sewage water, a donator who drops off clothing for dogs. After so much. It's 1 a.m. in the morning. I'm staring down at this intake paperwork on the table, wondering what name to call myself. Delinquent, slut, crazy, anorexic, selfish, bitch. Denying your daughter her true name is like denying her water. Crimson curtain, shattered window. At night, little girls curl up in bed, and our grief bleeds out onto the sheets like a stillborn child who we cradle and rock between our arms, whispering her past name like a eulogy. Pearl, Kelly, Joanna, Marie, Paris. grace, Rachel. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Rachel. We really appreciate that. Thank you for being vulnerable and for your strength and sharing your story. That was stunning and exquisite. Thank you. I just want to send a reminder that we do have a therapist in the chat, actively in the chat from Resilience. So if anyone wants to connect with Lauren Milburn, she is available. So you can DM her specifically by clicking on the chat and clicking, instead of to, you can find her name if you want to chat with her directly. So thank you. We're getting lots of comments just praising and encouraging you and your work. So thank you very much. Okay, Charnel, let's hear from you.
Hello, everyone. Am I not the spotlight video yet?
Maggie, I think you are. I see you. I see your video.
I see Tara's.
Oh,
wait. Yeah.
I think whoever's talking will be on the video. Will be the center video.
Okay. Sorry about that. So my name is Cheryl Lane, and I am a Black woman. I am wearing a very light purple shirt with a crystal necklace and a beautiful African print purple head wrap, on mostly a white background with some visions of pictures back there. Like I said, my name is Cheryl Lane, and I am bearing my soul to heal yours. What does it feel like to be trapped in pain? Constipated with hurt from memories too painful to relive? I pushed and pushed and tried to release, but I still can't find relief. Congested with the agony of things whispered in the night, which caused pneumonia, making it difficult for me to breathe. Unshed water behind my pupils made the sorrow visible in my eyes. Blocked tear ducts left the windows to my soul blurry, dry, and red. I choked on sobs of discomfort. Someone told me not to cry. Salt from my tears burned my throat and made it hard to tell my truth. I was bloated with murky waters from the shame of a dark past, a few more pounds of another's baggage to carry. Wasn't too much, I guess. I ate the negativity fed to me, picked up the weight of suffering, discomfort locked into my joints. My arteries were clogged with the grief of losing people, places, and things. Visions of happier times on the movie screen, in my mind. Bits of misery broke off and flew through my bloodstream. Soon a clot of anguish lodged itself into my heart. All of this I knew medicine couldn't fix. Anxiety ran through my nerves, giving me a tic. All of the stressors in my life had to produce it. At times I couldn't think, had to cut off the lights, close my eyes, and sleep. I was covered in the trauma, which caused all this drama. Rashes itched, stunned, and burned from the touch, from the torture I had to endure. Pus and oil that oozed out of sores clogged my pores and kept the poison festering inside. I finally did rest, or so it seems, until the pain shows up in my dreams, flashes of abuse, violence, and assault caused by the ones who are really at fault. I wish it was over. I wish I was free of all these things that torment me. This is not a poem for survivors, for we know the true pain and heartbreak of this poem. This is for supporters, family, and friends to understand how it might feel for someone you love to be trapped in pain. And that is a poem called Trapped in Pain. I'm very gracious for you all to allow me to share that with you. Yeah, so I am an advocate, facilitator, and poetic storyteller because my poetry tells a story and my stories are poetic. I am also the owner of Chanel Lane LLC, where we help you use your words. Now, how do words save people's lives? So I just want to talk about how words saved my life. I always was a writer. I was always a writer from a very, very young age. In fact, I think the youngest I remember writing is first grade. And I was always told that I was a good writer. Never stop writing, never stop writing. I was always told you can do anything you put your mind to. And then when I was 11 years old, I was a victim. I'm made me a survivor of sexual assault by who I thought was a family member at the time, an uncle. And I always believed the things told to me. And then I realized that I can do anything I wanted to do except cry. And I never will stop writing unless it was to speak my truth. I was pummeled down in this barrage of contradictions. And it was from family. It was from very, very small group of family because I was told to keep it secret. And no one could know. So I was very stifled at that point. And I became very careful with my words, careful with my actions, careful with my voice. And then I went to school one day and was introduced to Maya Angelou. And I was introduced to her, not only her poetry, but her first book called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I fell in love. It changed my life. She has an incident where she experienced sexual assault at a young age and literally went mute, did not speak at all for years because she felt her voice was dangerous. She felt her voice would give loose to things and that she shouldn't speak about things like her abuse because it made bad things happen. And she learned or gained her voice back through the use of words. That changed my life. It gave me the gumption, it gave me the push and the motivation to start using my words again to tell my truth. And it was a very slow process. It was a very slow process. I would do something here, do something there. For the longest time, I hid everything from anybody except my friends because I already knew what was going to happen. I was also around a little after that time diagnosed with bipolar disorder, later generalized anxiety disorder, later on PTSD. and then narcolepsy, fibromyalgia, a whole bunch of things came to play. So add that with the things that happened to me, as well as anybody dealing with that type of stress, drama, heartache, anguish. You go through shame, you go through blaming yourself, you go through, why is this happening to me? And then you go through, hopefully, let me deal with this. One of the ways you can deal with this is with words. I teach workshops, writing through it workshops and healing through it summits. And the whole point of that is to help women reveal, deal, and heal from trauma and negative emotion while commemorating and recognizing strengths and positive experiences. And I created these because there was a time going on where there was a spirit of unrest. Trayvon Martin had just been killed, and it was just a cloud over the Black community. And I wanted to help. And I knew that why writing helped me heal. And I had taught journaling before, so I created this curriculum to go out and teach other people how to use writing to heal. Someone said earlier about how you don't have to have like a degree or anything to be a creative, to use your creative powers for healing. You absolutely don't. I do not have a college degree. I do not have an associate's. I think I graduated from Everest, but does that count? I don't know. So what I'm saying is I'm a writer, I'm an author. I've worked with hundreds of organizations doing what I do. And I always say in my classes to the people that I am guiding on their healing process is that don't worry about the writing at first. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. The most important part is to get it out. Brain dump, free writing. Just get it out. You can have a journal, and I tell them all the time, write in circles, write upside down, write horizontally, vertically, however you want to write, because you need to make this journal feel like it's yours and that you can share whatever you're feeling. I don't care if you doodle on a page. If that's what you're feeling, that's what you're feeling. I think my time is almost up, but before I leave, I would like to share with you all a quote by the late, great Maya Angelou, which has pushed me and kept in the forefront of my mind as I work and heal and help others who have experienced the same things as me and gone through the same things. And it says, when a person is going through hell and she encounters someone who went through hellish hell and survived, then she can say, mine is not so bad as all of that. She came through, and so can I. So I want to leave you with those powerful words from a great woman who personally helped me heal from sexual assault and gained my voice back. So thank you guys so much. I hope you got something from my presentation, and enjoy the rest of the panel.
Thank you, Chanel. We appreciate you so much. That was really empowering. Okay, so before we take questions from the audience, I want to share a poem from a self-advocate poet and writer, Kathy Lynn Saunders, titled, My Name is Kathy Lynn, A Love Letter from Me to You. So I'm going to play this.
A catalyst of peace. Empower me. I want to be a catalyst of peace. Where there is sexual violence, let me show sexual liberation and patience. Where there is ignorance of knowledge, let me educate. I want to be a catalyst of peace. Bring forth the comrades who will labor with me. Where there is pain, Make me a salve to heal the hurt. Provide my hands with a tender touch so that hearts will permeate and know love. Let me work hard and not tire. May my every word inspire my brothers and sisters as I labor for an end to sexual violence for women with disabilities. I pray for the day when they see themselves as they truly are. Soulful, beautiful, sensual, titillating, captivating, illuminating women of distinction. A catalyst of peace, worthy of royalty. Are you committed, or do I stand alone? How many with me shall stand to be a catalyst of peace?
All right. Okay, let me get my screen back up here. Okay. Just a little note. I met Kathy several years ago at a training in Springfield, Illinois, the capital here capital here. There was a training done by the Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault in some curriculum that Illinois Imagines, a statewide organization at the time, grant project, had been facilitating. And Kathy, at the end of the 3 days, shared this poem that she had written the night before. And, you know, I personally remember the moment well and being really inspired and empowered to do this work and also learn about just the high instances of sexual violence against people with disabilities, but also to hear from her as a survivor and the call to action in her voice and just how passionate she was. It was a really impactful moment on me professionally and personally as a survivor myself. And, you know, I thought that it would be really important to share her voice here. She wasn't able to join us due to technology issues, but I wanted to make sure that we gave her a platform to share her incredible work. So thank you to Kathy. So next we're going to do a call to action, and Sarge is going to join us again. So Sarge.
Sorry, I tried to turn on my camera, but I can't. But can y'all hear me? I actually can't see anybody, and I can't see myself.
Oh, I see you now.
Okay. All right. So y'all can hear me? Okay. Cool. Can you remind me how much time we have? Like 5 minutes less than that?
Yeah, we've got about 5-10 minutes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So sort of how do I okay. So for me, art is a meditative practice, and meditation actually is an ancient practice. It's so old that some historians believe that it's been around since 3000 BC. So a really, really long time ago. Originally, the place that they think it originated from is India. So I just want to talk briefly about how, well, I just want to mention that this meditation is an ancient practice, and I've been doing it for a while. And I find that it lines up with art very, very wonderfully. And at times, you know, if you've ever engaged in something that is creative that you genuinely enjoy, you can get to a place where you forget about time and just focus on what you're doing. Meditation at its core is about breathing. So, you know, I've explained this to some people, to others before, as the thoughts come and go like this, because our brain, you know, there's neurons firing like every millisecond of our lives. And so of course you're going to be thinking thoughts constantly. But meditation is about holding those thoughts for just a second, acknowledging them and letting them go. So we're gonna do a short meditation, and then I'll invite you to make some art. If you have crayons or colors or just a pen and some paper, you can do that. But I'll just do a guided meditation briefly, and I am going to slow down my talking because I get really excited sometimes. So I want to invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable with that or want to. If you don't want to close your eyes, that's totally okay. Just find a spot in the room that you're in that you can softly gaze at and just relax. So I know it's been a long day and you probably already want to go to bed, but if you want to, please engage and be present. Hope you're all there. So we're going to begin by taking some deep breaths together. And as we're breathing, just start to notice how your body is touching the surface that you're on right now. So we're going to inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One last one. Inhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the way that I lead meditation is I-centered. I don't like being told what to do. So I'm going to lead this meditation using the word I, and I invite you to follow along with me. I feel the ground underneath my feet. I hear the sounds all around me. It may be a TV, it may be the wind, it may be the beeping sound of my computer. I notice the colors that seep through my eyes. I notice the sweat beads on my forehead, or any other thing that I can actually feel on my body. And I breathe. I inhale. I exhale. I inhale. I exhale. We don't thank our bodies enough. And we don't thank our brain enough. Our brain and our hearts are always going. I thank my heart and my body and my brain today for every day. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of moments, but I know that if a thought comes and I start thinking about tomorrow, or about the dog, or about being on the Zoom call, I know that I can recognize the thought and let it go. I inhale. I exhale. I inhale. I exhale. As I inhale, I think about all the wonderful stories that I heard today, the strength, the bravery, the creativity. And as I exhale, I let go of the taboo, the stigma, the shame. They're all still there, but I can let them leave my body in this moment and know that I can always do so. I inhale. I exhale. I inhale. I exhale. I inhale. I exhale. And when I'm ready, I begin to sway in my chair or on my bed, on the floor, wherever I'm at. Just sway slowly, softly, waking my body back up from its little slumber. I wiggle my toes and my fingers or any part of my body that I want to. And I open or focus my eyes and just come back to my body. Okay, well, hopefully that was enjoyable. The art activity is very simple. I wanted to just invite you all to think of an image or a word or a color or something that really came through for you during the meditation and during this this whole Zoom call, and just take a moment to draw it. It can be a doodle, or it could be a little paragraph, a poem. It could literally be a circle, anything you want. Yeah, it's very simple. So no experience needed. Feel free.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling very relaxed. I hope everyone else is too. Okay, just before we end, again, please put some, if you have questions for any of our panelists, put them in the chat box now. And while we wind down, I wanted to share some resources. This is a page of resources that we've compiled, and you will be getting, just to let you know, we will be sending you the PowerPoint for today, which will have live links in it. So don't feel like you have to jot all these down. We will make sure you get them. And we encourage you to check out all of these. And we are going to open up for question and answer. But while we're getting some questions, we do have 3 more events coming up in our series. So tomorrow morning, afternoon, we're going to have a presentation on disability and bisexuality and healthcare outcomes. It's going to be really interesting. And then our last webinar in our series is titled Continuing the Journey, Mobilizing Support for People with Disabilities Who Experience Sexual Violence. We have done several other webinars, so if you're interested in coming to that, please do. And then lastly, we have a panel discussion on healthy sexuality and sexual expression on December 17th. So feel free to check out our website, selfadvocacyalliance.org, if you want to view other event recordings or register for one of these webinars. So I'm going to put up my email and our information for the Alliance. And Maggie, would you help us with question and answer?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have any questions for the artists or about Awakenings Gallery, please put those in the chat. And if you want them to be asked anonymously, you can also private message me, Maggie, and I will ask them without attaching your name, if that's easier.
Great. Okay, so it looks like we've got a question. How important or meaningful was it, or is it, to connect with a role model or representation from your community to support survivors? So anyone can answer that, anyone who feels comfortable answering that.
This is Cheryl Nell Lane. It's very important to connect with people who have gone through what you experienced, or who know about what you experience, or who are advocates about what you experience. Role models and representation of the things that you want to do is extremely important, which is why I'm very thankful to Resilience, to the Awakenings Gallery, to Surviving the Mic. It's just awesome things going on out here for people who have this cross section of different experiences. And it just is powerful because it shows you that you can do it, right? You can push and you can get there because you've seen or were guided by someone who has gotten to that
point. This is Rachel. And I also really think it's super important to have role models and representation. For me, I just felt like so much more empowered once I got connected with disability community, because before I'd always, I don't know, like my experiences with sexual violence always felt very unique, even though they aren't very unique. And connecting with disability community really allowed me to see like, oh, my experiences aren't just like, it's not a problem about me. This is something that happens to people in my community. And so it was just really empowering for me to connect with other disabled people. And that really allowed me to speak for the first time. Before then, I really hadn't spoken much about my experiences.
Thank you so much. Okay, we've got a thank you. Anyone want to put any comments or anything, comments for our panelists, words of encouragement, anything? We're winding down to our last couple minutes. And while those come in, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for participating today. This is a really heavy topic. I know sexual violence and domestic violence are nothing if not heavy and challenging, and we all kind of come at this wherever we are, right? And so it's important to take time to really honor the experiences that we've had and to make connections with those in our communities. And I just want to thank all of our panelists, Sarge, Laura, Genevieve, Caitlin, Rachel, and Cheryl Nell, for being so vulnerable and open and sharing your stories. It looks like Sarge has a question, if no one, if that's all right. Sarge?
Just like a curious artist to artist, I wonder what everyone's working on. And we don't have to have like a whole thing, but I'm just wondering, like, I'm personally working on a watercolor drawing about myself.
Great.
I am currently working on some blog entries, but my big project is my memoir.
I am working on a book/graphic novel about my experiences with a hospitalization this summer, and kind of how trauma is related to that.
I have a portrait of Coraline, like the movie, due tomorrow, so I'll have to finish that tonight. But yeah, but next up in my bracket is I'm really working with the character designs in my memoir. Like my grandmother is going to be like a horse. I'm really getting all that down. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's like, I can't wait to get my schoolwork done.
All right, Genevieve in the comments said she's working on a Ruth Bader Ginsburg portrait. So that's really exciting. And then at Awakenings, we currently have a virtual art gallery exhibit up exploring the impact of trauma on sexuality. And there is a link for that in the chat. Okay. And if there's no other comments, thank you all again. We will be sending out the recording for today's webinar, and you can also visit our website for more information. I want to thank you all again and wish you a lovely evening. Hopefully we're all able to do some art in the next couple days. Thank you again. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.